we needed something great to happen with the program. What we talked about was getting a win over Florida State, getting in the top 25, playing an exciting brand of football, and they pulled it off yesterday by going on Saturday by going on national television and beating Florida State. And now they are in the coaches poll. They're right on the cusp of being in the AP top 25 and becoming a playoff team became very, very real over the weekend, because that was the game we had circled. We said, though they do have games on the road against South Florida, against Tulane, against some of the other better opponents in the AAC is not good. And so if you are good and you have the opportunity to catch a good non-conference win, because despite the fact that Florida State has gone massively the wrong way, it is still not a team you are supposed to beat. It is still a team you were an underdog to. And certainly it is one of those that people will look at their schedule and remember that you won. And so both on the local level and the national level, I don't think it can be overstated how massive this truly was for the program to move to 3-0, because we know that people are going to have to, and John Calipari dealt with this back in the day when people would look at the home schedule, and obviously it was better than it is now, but he'd be like, come support us. Right? This is about us. This is not about the opponent. Because one of the things that Memphis has run into with this American Athletic Conference is there are going to be years, especially like this one, where as long as they're in this conference, you're going to look at that schedule, and if you don't have a good non-conference game, you're going to look up and down that schedule, and it could be like this year where you're like, seriously? Like, what is this? You can't be going for the opponent. And so how do you get people to go for you? Be a team that has a chance at making the college football playoff. Be a team that's in the top 25 and be a draw amongst the people in town. They dominated this game. Look, Florida State only had 11 first downs the entire game. Yeah. They only had 11 first downs the entire game. They out-yarded them by 100 yards. They had 337 to 238. Obviously, we talked about DJU and how bad he was. I mean, I said this after week one. I didn't even see the Boston College game. There was a video that was put up by Garden City Media after week one, and I'm like, this guy is terrible. Yeah. And I can't believe that Norvell hitched his wagon to him. I can't believe it, because I've watched that Norvell offense. We've talked about this week after week after week. These guys that are really good offensive coordinators / head coaches, and they've got an offense that works. They get playmakers on the outside. All you got to do is be able to get the ball to the playmakers, and then you can play with some pace. And so we've outlined it over and over again. You've seen it with Mike Norvell, with lesser players. We saw it with Hugh Freeze. Hugh Freeze, by the way, ditched his quarterback, and his offense started scoring this week because Peyton Thorne couldn't do it. So he brings in this other guy, Hank, what's his name, and he starts doing it. Yep. I know they're playing a rad opponent, but still, you saw it when Josh Heupel had Hendon Hooker. The balls, everything about their offense looks explosive and fantastic. And then he goes to Joe Milton, and Joe Milton can't make the little dink and dunk stuff to keep the pace going. And so now all that stuff looks whack. And that was the point. After you saw week one, it's like, this guy can't hardly throw an accurate pass. And then when he does, his guys drop it anyway. He doesn't get any help. That's for sure. But you did all of the things that you need to do to pull off an upset. You kept the chains moving. You converted on third downs. You kept your penalties low. You won the turnover battle. Like, all the things that you need to have happen in order to get a win.
They did.
And you stopped them from converting third downs. And then, look, Memphis did not run the ball well. They averaged 2 yards a rush, which is horrendous, unless, of course, you realize that they had 1.5 yards per rush, right? And so I talked about on Friday, I said, look, I feel good in the sense of you read the article by Jonah Dillon, and Jonah was on with Gary on Friday, and he was chronicling how Ryan Silverfield and Mike Norvell had been together for so long. They had been together since Arizona State. Then they came to Memphis. Silverfield was the only assistant that stayed the entire time with Mike Norvell. And, they did as much to say, hey, this isn't Mike versus Ryan. But there was part of me, and I expressed this on Friday, and I said, look, we have seen this when it comes to the NBA. We have seen this when it comes to college basketball. We've seen this in all manner of sports. So many times, if you work together and you are around that person all the time, you know the way that person thinks. And Ryan gave us a little bit of insight last Monday when he said, look, I know Mike Norvell likes to go for a trick play on the second drive of the game. And it was a little nugget to let you know, like, bro, he knows this guy. He knows what this guy's trying to do. He knows the kind of plays he's trying to run. He knows. And then I couldn't help but think, and I meant to text Devin this morning, who was going over to the press conference. I meant to ask him. So it gets to the last series of the game. Florida State's going to get the ball back. They're going to have a chance to go tie, right? And Memphis I would have to go back and look at it, but you got to imagine they're in zero coverage because, they just bring the house on DJU and sack him over and over and over again, right? And you know that they're not going to be jumbo because they're going to, and max protect because they want to have all their guys out on the outside. But guess who would know that? Guess who would know exactly what a 2-minute drill under Mike Norvell looks like? Ryan Silverfield, right? It stands to reason. Nobody would know better, especially when Silverfield was in charge of offensive linemen for as long as he was. He knew exactly what it looks like. And that's not something that you're changing every single year. I thought as that last drive unfolded, I really did. It ran through my mind. I'm like, bro, he knew exactly how to line up and exactly how to blitz this. And obviously, DJU had no chance. He had no chance.
None.
They were there immediately. They were coming off the corner. They were coming up the middle. They just bombed him out.
There was like one play on that final drive where they rushed 3 and Florida State got a completion and got yards, and every other play it was 5 and 6 guys they brought.
Right.
Like, we're just not even going to allow you the time.
Right. And, of course, he's a statue. Look, the guy he's not good enough. He's not good enough, right? He is. It's so funny. With a guy like that, if you took the 5-star label off of him, if I told you he was a 1-star player coming out of high school, you wonder how many of these chances he's gotten. Because while they did win a lot of games at Oregon State last year, the guy was still like 50-something%.
Yeah.
Passer, right? And you got these guys,
right.
And you got guys that are 70 and 75% in a lot of cases throughout college football. But just an enormous win. Big congrats to Ryan Silverfield and the entire Memphis football operation, because that was enormous for the program. I do not think it can be overstated, and especially enormous going forward in rallying support. And it does now give you the best thing that happens in sports, which is hope. And you look at it and you go, geez, man, you could really, this is a real thing, that you could end up being the best non-Power 5 school when it's all said and done, and maybe have an undefeated season. Also, it gives you a chance to be able to take a narrow loss. You can't get your brains beat out, but if you lost a 35-34 game, like once, and then you still ran the table and went 11-1, it gives you that breathing room. I really believe that. Like, if you went to South Florida and lost 35-34 or something like that, you could. I'm not saying, again, how many undefeateds are there going to be?
It depends on how it plays out. It depends on how it all
How many undefeateds are there going to be? And look, there was a big game that Boise State played and they lost it. They did play it close, but if somebody catches them, now they're 2 losses. Yeah. That's what I'm saying.
And if Florida State
it's not out of the realm of possibility that you could be the best non-Power 5 with 1 loss.
If Florida State also Memphis fans, you should be Florida State fans the rest of the season and hope they can somewhat turn this around. Because it's only going to make it look better. But if they freaking win 1 or 2 games, their win is not going to look good. 10 years from now, Memphis, nobody's going to care. 10 to 15 years now, it's going to be. Remember when Memphis went and beat Florida State? Like, that's going to be great. But like I'm saying, towards the end of the season, like you'd like Florida State starting this weekend to beat Cal and at least get their first win of the season.
Well, and here's the deal, dude. Norvell. Look, I have defended him. I think you get a little grace period when he went 12-0. But I can't believe he hitched his wagon to this guy.
It's unreal.
It's truly unbelievable. And
someone in the chat said he was a teamy player.
You get what you get, right? And here's what I'll say. Florida State is not like they are in a different class of program. Should be in a different class of program. I heard somebody over the weekend and they were discussing. They're discussing Lane Kiffin, right? Because that's going to come up a lot. It's going to be a thing where Florida fans, and we have Brian Edwards on Fridays, they want Lane Kiffin. They're already talking about Lane Kiffin. And I saw this guy, and he was saying Lane Kiffin would walk to Florida. And Ole Miss fans are crazy if they don't think he would. You know, Ole Miss is a build-it-up program, and then you have, a year or two. But, Florida is a every-year program, right, that you don't have to keep – building up to your amazing seasons. And Florida State is not a build-it-up program. He already built it up. And especially then you created your own monster by going 12-0 last year. You can't go 0-3 and be losing to Boston College, Georgia Tech. There is no excuse for Norvell. There's no excuse.
Right? Florida State expects to win national championships. They expect you to sustain it there.
There is no excuse, but I will tell you the reason is because of what the decision he made at quarterback, and that's his decision.
That's his decision,
bro.
He was.
You get what you get. I mean, look, the worst thing ever is that for him, they owe him $10 million or $11 million in 2031.
Yeah.
So.
DJU, the number 2 ranked quarterback in the class of 2020.
Yeah. CJ Stroud.
No, Bryce Young, actually.
Oh. C.J. Stroud was right there as well.
C.J. Stroud was 3rd.
Yeah.
And then you have all the way down Carson Beck 13th and Anthony Richardson 14th. Carson Beck may be the number 1 pick in the draft next year. So
unbelievable.
Yeah.
Memphis, just an unbelievable weekend, to say the least. They end up beating Florida State. Now you look and you go, they've got at Navy, MTSU. At South Florida is the next
they played Bama
big
tough.
one.
Yeah, they played Bama tough.
But South Florida is on October 11th when they play South Florida. That's actually a Friday game.
Okay.
It's a Friday game that they will play against South Florida. And South Florida, you say they played Bama tough, but they ended up losing 42-16.
But they play. It was a close game for a while.